All right, I'm good. Well, yeah, let me start my stopwatch. So I got it. All right.
It's time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents, not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan.
Welcome to Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Awesome new show this week. All kind of crazy stuff going on. Obviously, pre-election show, but some interesting things happening here. We got the brand new market numbers in from last month, and for the first time in a very long time, we see two decline in prices, both median and average price for single-family homes. We'll talk about that. Sales down just a little bit. They held it pretty decent though once we had that little bump with low interest rates a month and a half ago. But big news with rates this past week. We hit a multi-month high. Then Friday, the jobs numbers came in much lower than expected. So we're going to hopefully see some great movement here in this next week with rates getting back down below 7. We'll talk about that in terms of what's happening. But very interesting time, right? We'll talk about the data about election years and what happens during election years. Where if you look back on each election cycle, there's a major election. There tends to be a pause right before the election, and there's a big push right afterwards. And we'll talk about that data and what we see overall with that. But amazing success stories. Our team's absolutely crushing it in this kind of shoulder season. We're seeing lots of big money coming in right now from a lot of different areas who tend to want to avoid that craziness of summertime. They come by in the fall. We're up the last 6 weeks in a row. We're up above where we were last year. The same time each week we measure how many new properties under contract. We're beating that, which is good. But there's a lot of headwinds in the market. Some properties are taking longer to sell. The marketplace as a whole, buyer traffic is down about 30% in terms of showings. We'll talk about that overall. Some interesting things we'll talk about. Like I said, the election data stuff's important. I have this on the list for the last 3 weeks. Haven't had time to get to. Is the solar panel thing? I get that question a lot. I advise 100% not to get any solar panels in terms of real estate related value. We'll talk about why that is and how it brings up big challenges. And I'll tell a couple of horror stories that we heard. Also, our investment fund's been still buying stuff. We bought another property this past week, put under contract. I'm closing on 2 more next week, both on the same day. I closed 2 in one day with the fund, and that's somebody we came in, did instant cash offer, instant buyout, maximum convenience, super fair pricing, and we're tend to really be much higher than a lot of these other investors out there. And also, one thing you got to watch out for, and a lot of homeowners don't really know what they are wholesalers. They're people from. We met with one guy. He had 5 different people making offers to him, all 5 out of state. All 5 never have seen the property before. And what they did not know is that person is what they call a wholesaler. And that person really has no intention of ever actually buying the property. What tends to happen is they lock the property up. They couldn't actually buy it if they wanted to. And they're trying to flip that contract to someone else. And what happens really about 80% of the time, at least from my experience of seeing that, they can't find a buyer to flip it. All of a sudden, you're left holding the bag with 2 properties. And so we'll talk about what that means, how it looks for, but lots of great stuff on today's show. As usual, if you want to come back and watch and listen to these, we stream on YouTube. Just type in Blake Sloan Radio Show. Go follow me on Facebook at Blake Sloan, or you can go to Sloan Realty Group. And also, we put this to your favorite podcast platform, whether that be Spotify, Apple Music, all those things out there. You can always come back and listen to those again and share those with your family as well.
For any new listeners, just to give you an update on just who Blake is, it's an amazing story. Industry leaders have dubbed him the real estate whiz kid. Been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, NBC, Realtor Magazine, and many other national publications. He has been personally endorsed by Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck. One of those by itself is an accomplishment, but all of them together, it's unprecedented. Last week, we learned a little about how you and your team work and how a good portion of your success has come from the trademark systems you have developed to help both buyers and sellers here in our market. Recap quickly for anyone new to the show what those are exactly and a quick overview of how they work, Blake.
Absolutely. This is the whole reason why I do the show. And like I said, I made a promise to myself a long time ago. I'm going to talk about it every week until I don't have these issues anymore. And I had another horse for this past week where they ended up listing with a neighbor. It was like a discount agent. It was a horror story for them. Did not work out like they thought it would. But this is one thing that people make the same mistake over and over and over. And I just talk about this a lot with my team and everyone else is everyone tends to spend 20, 30 years building their hard-earned equity, but 15 minutes picking a real estate agent. They don't really even know how to pick an agent. How do I know that? Been doing this so long. and they just ask the wrong questions, right? They go and ask the wrong questions where if I have an attorney, I'm looking to hire an attorney. Let's say I have a civil lawsuit or somebody's going to, I want to really know what experience that attorney has in that type of law. They specialize in civil law? Are they more criminal law? What type of cases they usually take? What's their experience like, right? They don't just come in and just ask what your hourly charge is, but everyone tends to ask the wrong questions. And so if I want someone in criminal law, I want to find out they specialize in criminal law. How many cases have they done? What's their experience like? How confident are they in my current situation? And for real estate, they don't do that at all. They just call and ask the one question, how much you charge, right? Which is totally the wrong question. It's important, but it's not the primary question. And I found that really happens because most people make this massive mistake of thinking that all real estate agents are the same. And I can see why, because so many are very similar. Most agents don't do very much at all. In fact, the average agent on marketplace sells 4 homes per year, which is 1 per quarter, which is very, very bad. It's not very much experience to even have a pulse in the marketplace, and much less have any money to market your property with. And so I made a promise that, look, I'm going to talk about this all the time because people don't realize they make all these mistakes. And right now, it's really getting exposed in any cases. We're back up being close to about almost 50% of properties that get listed are not selling during the listing period. They're either having to relist it, extend it, or pull it off the market and go list with someone else. And so that's crazy to think about. Even looking at days on market in September was 121 days on market for all property types, which is crazy, up 10% from the same time last year. And so think about that, 121 days on average sell a property in the entire MLS. That's a long time. And so that's why the agent you choose matters. And, God forbid you actually sell it with an agent who's just an average frustrated agent who's desperate. What tends to happen is you leave $20, $30, $40, $50,000 on the table. And so what most don't realize is it's very complex. There's a lot of nuances and ins and outs in selling a property. What most agents do, though, they just do the 3 Ps. They promise you the world to get the listing, meaning they tell you anything and everything to get the listing. Usually it's their number one, right? Their number one. We don't know what they're number one in. Usually it's their number one in their office or whatever it is. But if you do the numbers, it's actually not the case. And the second thing they do is they put it to MLS, the second P, which is just put it to multiple listing service. And 3, they pray that someone else brings a buyer. Meanwhile, they're down the street trying to get the next listing because they're just trying to survive. And here's the deal. If there's a 50% chance that listing sells, now they got to get twice as many listings to even get the numbers that they hope they get in terms of closed deals. And so it's really kind of crazy right now, especially the Wild West, where you're seeing a massive shift in the marketplace. You're seeing tens and tens of thousands of agents getting out their business across the country. I'm seeing multiple agents on my Facebook show the new job show up where it's no longer in real estate, it's a different industry. And you're seeing that. So you're seeing a lot of desperation right now. People offering super low commissions, super high expectations that they're promising, and they're not able to deliver on that, which leads to a lot of frustration for homeowners out there. And here's the crazy part. You cannot gamble with your largest asset like that. You can't be buying a new property for hundreds of thousands of dollars, expecting yours to sell. Meanwhile, it doesn't sell. So you're stuck with 2 homes, or worst case, stuck with no homes if, one falls through, or you sell one and can't buy the other. You want to make sure it's handled proactively and by somebody who's a true expert who has that experience. And so what I found is that most people don't really understand the ins and outs, because when you sell a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. If each one's handled correctly, it puts money in your pocket, property gets sold. Anything's handled incorrectly, aka they drop the ball at any point. That could be anything from price strategy, from marketing dollars, from the quality of photos, the order of the photos, what's their speed of response to buyers who inquire online or on the telephone, right? All these things matter. What's their negotiation strategy? What's the data they're using to pick your price strategy as well as the negotiation strategy, all the way to the home inspection? There's all these things that have to be handled correctly. And most people don't realize is the single most important variable that determines your success or failure as a home seller comes down to one thing and one thing only. And that thing is the agent that you choose, period, right? Not your wall color, not the grass quality, not the time of year you sell. It has to do with the agent you choose and how they execute and what type of system they have in place to do so. And what we find is most agents are just winging it, right? They're just getting a squeaky wheel. They're putting on MLS and hoping that it sells. And the only option they have is to beat you down on price. And therefore you leave massive amounts of equity on the table because you find yourself in a pinch where you're up against a timeline, or you're just frustrated, worn out, and worn down based on how long it's been on the market. And it's very, very frustrating for most people, and it's not a great experience. And so what I did when I got in the business, I'm like, man, this is definitely a broken business model. I studied business in college, and I was a business management major. But the reality is I got in the business in 2005 in January. My whole family sold real estate. Mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma. They did not want me to get in real estate, but I knew I'd be very good at it, knew I liked it. But when I got in, I saw a very, very broken business model where I was at Coldwell Banker as me, 200 plus agents, but we were all independent. They didn't care about me. I didn't care about them. We were not working together in any way. In fact, in many cases, they would be stealing my leads. They would hear me on the telephone with a name and phone number, and they would call them behind my back. And so I found out the organization structure was just not something that really benefited consumers. And so I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so I sought out to build a team, found coaches and mentors, both inside of real estate and also outside of real estate. And that's what really changed the game. I flipped the business model upside down. I created this thing called the Guaranteed Sold System, the only proven system that sells twice as fast and for up to 21% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. And what we did when we did that is we created a business, an organization that had true alignment. We have a team of specialists. Each person on our team specializes in what they do, where versus when I was back at Coldwell Banker, we were just big generalists. We were just trying to do everything, right? It's like having the same person at McDonald's at the front register, the drive-thru and French fries at the same time. It's not going to work out very well. And that's why you see such a high failure rate in terms of homes getting listed, homes getting sold, because you have a generalist who's trying to do everything. And it's physically impossible for them to execute at a high level through all those different variables. And so with our team of specialists, we have inside sales, we have outside sales, we have listing specialists, buyer specialists, listing coordinator, closing coordinators, in-house photographer, videography, in-house graphic design, all that stuff that's done in-house where each person specializes in it. And we're able to make sure we get a much higher output, a much more efficient process so that we can execute those variables at a high level. And so the goal there was, how do I create a small gap for my client at variable number one? How do I create a small gap for my client at variable number two? And you stack all those variables up over 118 different ones, those small gaps add up to a large gap. And that's how we create a massive competitive advantage for our clients in the marketplace. And that's how you sell properties faster and for more money. And so if you want to know more how it works, reach out, call me. You owe it to yourself to at least investigate it. We're super laid back about how we operate and what we do. And but we obviously feel that it's important that we educate the client. Like, look, here's how the business works. Here's how 99% of the time it works for most people. Here's what we did. Here's what makes it different. Here's our active buyers. You can see them searching in real time. And it absolutely blows anyone's mind that sees it, even other real estate agents. That's the coolest part. We have other agents who either have investment properties here, they work in another part of the country. We even had this past week a local real estate agent call us to help sell her house because they weren't getting it sold. And that's something we're able to help with as well. But once we sit down and show, and it absolutely blows their mind, and you owe it to yourself to at least investigate, at least, kind of take a look at it if you're thinking about selling, because so many people make that mistake of just going with someone else first. And that's the biggest one I get. Well, I'm going to try my friend first. Well, if you try your friend first, that means you might leave $40,000 on the table. In worst case scenario, it does sell, but you sold it for much less than you could have gotten for if it would have been marketed correctly, if it would have been negotiated correctly, and if it would have had the right strategy and process in place. And so reach out if you want to know more. For buyers out there, guess what? It's still a very complex and difficult marketplace right now. Inventory is still fairly low historically, but there's a lot of nuances. There are 100 plus variables when you buy a property. If each one's handled correctly, it saves you money. In the property, you actually get the one you want. If not, you miss out on the one you want. Or in some cases, you tend to overpay for that, which is not a great thing. And so I designed this thing there for buyers called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Gives you priority access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation and purchase price, as well as the home inspection to get you that closing table successfully. And again, both of those are designed to do one thing, which is to give you a massive competitive advantage in the marketplace when you're buying or selling. So if you want to know more, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. Take a quick break, right back in a sec with a brand new market update.
That directly impact your family's future. Hey, your friend Sean Hannity here, and the same is true for your real estate transactions. Now, when you sell your home, you need to speak to one of the agents right here in town that will get you the most money with the least hassle. I'm talking about Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Now, knowing the facts when you vote and when you sell your home is always important. That's why you should check out the value of your home in today's market. When you know the accurate value, you are better equipped to make an informed decision with all the options laid out for you. Options like an instant offer, or lay out your timeline and take advantage of their guaranteed sale program, or just put it on the market and get more money than you expected. Just go to the website, find out your home's value in seconds. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com. And get your home's real value in today's market in just seconds, and then you can start packing.
Hi, I'm Barbara Barber. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent in Myrtle Beach that I recommend. You offer several options to home sellers, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers in a time crunch, you can agree to sell it on a certain date, days after the home is even ready.
That's great. And if the seller has a good point,
You can approve marketing plan and sell it for the highest price.
work with my friend Blake Sloan and get your home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Real Estate Show. Brand new market update, all kind of stuff going on. We got some brand new market numbers hot off the press literally last night. And we'll probably see them fine-tune here the next few days through the 10th of the month. But it's definitely right with what we thought it would be pretty much. There's two types of numbers we talk about in the show. We have rear view mirror numbers. That's what I'm referring to there. Like what closed last month. And obviously you get through the month and then you look back, hey, what closed last month? The only challenge with using those numbers, if it closed last month, so in this case we're in November, it would have closed in October. If it closed in October, when our contract, 30 to 60 days prior to that, because you got to go through financing and inspections and underwriting, all this stuff. And so you want to make sure you're using real-time data. And that's what we call the front windshield numbers, which is, hey, what's going under contract every 7-day period? And we look at that and we can forecast, hey, look, it's up this week, it's down last week. Like last week's show, it was down 9.5% from the previous week with 407 properties under contract. This week, it's back up. I'm not really sure why it's back up because rates went up. We just had a lot of people in town buying stuff. But right now, the last 7 days in our MLS, 484 properties under contract for $185,500,000, which meant, again, anytime near 200,000, 200 million is a smoking hot week. That's like summer numbers. And for us to have that type in the first week of November is super awesome. Obviously, weather's been great. Lots of people in town. A lot of our agents are having 3 or 4 or 5 people a week in town right now looking to buy stuff, which is great news. And again, we're a very interest rate driven marketplace right now where many people are jumping in and they're watching what's happening real time. So one property at $6.2 million. That's in the Dunes Club on the ocean front right there. 2 properties over $2 million, 15 properties over $1 million. So lots of big stuff selling. 86 properties over 500,000 under contract last 7 days. Which is huge. Active inventory was actually down week over week, and that's because we saw a lot of properties go under contract, a huge run in what's happened. So like last week's show, there was 1,448 properties that are single-family resale homes on the market in Horry County. Right now, 1,429. So from 1,448 to 1,429, that happens usually anytime you see a run where you see a big jump in properties going under contract, and that's what we saw this past week, which is great news, right? That's going to help us really kind of go into December and even January with some great numbers overall. Obviously, it's going to depend on what happens with the election. There's all kind of issues and scenarios happening on both sides. We do think there'll be some chaos either way, right, in terms of what happens. But there's a big kind of hold up and pent demand. A lot of people just want to wait till after election to see. And sometimes we help them unpack it. Okay, well, who do you expect to win? What do you expect to happen? In most cases, either way, you're going to see prices continue to rise either through inflation or other stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But looking at the MLS and closed deals last month, sales down 2.9% from the same month last year. I do think once you see all the data in, which, agents sometimes are just slack. They don't put their MLS sale in when it should be in. And so it doesn't end up getting fully accurate usually until about the 10th of the month. Right now we're showing a 2.9% decrease. I think that we'll probably see it go right back to being 0.0 or maybe 1% increase after all the data is in. But the one thing that concerns me, it's been 4 out of the last 5 months we've seen a decline in sales. So we kind of peaked out in May at 543 sales. This last month in October, 403. So May was 543, June 483, then back up 527 July, and then all of a sudden we're back down really for the last 3 months in a row. So July 527, August 497, September 425, and then October 403. And so that's just something to keep watching for. Again, it is a little bit seasonal. That's why we always look year versus year. But it is interesting to see 4 out of the last 5 months decline in sales. And a lot of that just has to do with interest rates. And bouncing around, we're in a very, very interest rate driven marketplace right now. Rates go back down to low 6s. People jump back in, right? And again, some of these closed numbers, I think October numbers would be a lot worse if we wouldn't have seen rates go back down to the low 6s about a month and a half ago. And so that really kind of helped bump things up, which is great news. Sales price overall, sales price down both median and average sale price. The first time it's been like that, really, as I can remember in the past few years. We've been bouncing around seeing either one or the other, but not both. So last month, median sale price down 1.6% at $375,000. We've seen it decline every month since May as well. It peaked out at $405,000. Right now we're at 375 even, which is about $30,000 difference there just since May in terms of median sale price going down. Average sale price down 4.3%. Significant declines really almost every single month since May. Really 4 to 5 months we're seeing significant declines. So in May, average sale price peaked out at $520,944. Right now, $448 overall. So significant there, right? You're talking $70,000 in average sale price that has gone down just since May. And so that's something we'll keep watching overall. And that, again, has to do with slowing down. It's always supply and demand. We know that if supply is up, demand's down. Price is always a lagging indicator, meaning it's always a few months behind. That's why you're seeing that happen right now overall. And one of the things that's really been driving that has been inventory. Inventory is up 30% from the same time last year. Right now, there's 4.3 months of inventory, which is still not bad, right? If you wants to get 6 months or above in terms of inventory, that becomes a buyer's market, meaning the buyer has the advantage. Right now, it's still a seller's market because inventory is being held low because so many people who want to sell are kind of locked in place due to low interest rates. And so that's what happened once rates kind of normalize. People who are in 2, 3, 4% want to move, but they can't move because they're locked in at such a low rate. They couldn't buy the same type of property for the same amount they're paying per month. And that's what's really kind of helping protect price right now because you would see a lot more inventory if that wasn't the case. One thing to keep watching, like I mentioned, days on market. Days on market is up significantly. If you look at days on market for just houses only, for resale homes, it's up 26% from the same time last year. Right now, the average days on market for a house to sell, single family resale home, 106 days overall. The 121 I mentioned earlier, that was including condos and resale and new construction and houses. So that's just something to keep looking at. So that's one thing they're seeing there. And also, in terms of showings per listing, down significantly. 3.6 showings per listing is what the average listing gets right now in the MLS. So think about that. A 6-month listing, they're looking on the market to sell. The average listing for a single family home gets 3.6 showings total that entire time on the market. We know that because everyone has to use this same software called Showing Time, and Showing Time is how you get in the house and schedule the showing. And so they have all the data. They put it into a report for us. The problem, though, is the average amount of showings it takes to get a contract is 13.5. So a 4 times increase in amount of showings needed to get a contract than the average listing gets. And that's why the agent you choose matters. If you go to your neighbor down the street who's doing a discount agent, like they're just putting MLS, and the only option you have is to keep dropping your price. And so you're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies in many cases. That's why you want to make sure you have differentiation, want to make sure you have a sales team who can push it, want to make sure you have quality photos, quality video, drone, all that stuff to help make it separate and separate it, differentiate from everything else. That's what helps much of that in a big way. Condo market, right? They've been getting absolutely crushed here this whole year. And again, that's due to many different factors, and most of which increase HOA amounts, increase special assessments. A lot of that comes to increased insurance amounts. A lot of carriers made them go back and reappraise the entire building or the entire, project, depending on if it's multiple buildings. And they found that they were really underinsured. So they're having to raise their policy up significantly because prices have gone up so much in the past few years. And so that's really hurting a lot of condo owners there as well. And again, there's also issues with interest rates being high. So if you have a primary residence, right now rates are about 7%. We'll talk about the exact number in a minute. If you have a second home or investment property, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have an overlay on top of that, which is typically 1 or 2%. So in some cases, you're paying 9% for a second home or investment property. It's very, very difficult to make the numbers work in terms of cash flow or having anything realistic in terms of cash flow when you add that along with what's happening with the increase in HOA amounts. And so that's why you're seeing the condo market struggle. I do think you're probably going to see it continue to struggle for a while, unless rates come down significantly, which hopefully they might, but that's something we'll keep watching. Average sale price is still holding pretty strong, though, which is awesome. Average sale price for condos is up 5% year over year. It actually bumped up month versus month, which is good. And I think that's just a lot of people are seeing good deals coming there, scooping them up, and it kind of is hitting that price range where it meets buyer demand. But right now, the overall average price for a condo townhouse resale is $290,000. Last month it was $273,000, so it went up, which is awesome news there. Overall, median price pretty much flat, down 0.1% at $244,000. Inventory is still through the roof. It's a new record at 7 months of inventory right now, which is significantly high. That's the highest it's been since really back to 2015, 2016. It's up 66.7% right now in terms of inventory. And that's why you want to make sure you have great marketing, great differentiation, so you're not having to drop so much on price. The same challenge you're seeing there, Buyer traffic, which is the amount of showings per listing, is down 34% from the same time last year. The average listing right now for a condo gets 2.1 showings on the MLS. The problem is, to get a contract, it takes 9.1. So 4 times the amount of showings needed versus the amount of showings they get. That's why the agent you choose matters, and that's why you need someone who's very, very, very good with this. And again, like I mentioned, we're a very, very interest rate driven marketplace right now. Rates just peaked out on Friday morning at 7.09, a multi-month high, and so that's just put the brakes on it for a lot of buyers. The good news is the jobs report came in much lower than expected, 12,000 jobs. A lot to do with the hurricane, they claim, but we all have been talking about much of the numbers coming out from administration lately from jobs numbers has been total BS. They go back and revise it later on. We were surprised to see it this low, but we're hopefully going to see 10 to 20 basis points reduction in rates looking for Monday, which should be great news. Lots of buyers will be back in the sixes for a 30-year fix, and lots of buyers will be jumping back in. Also, we're looking at the Federal Reserve has a meeting coming up next week, which is helpful. And right now, it's pinned pretty much that there's definitely going to be another reduction. And it doesn't directly affect mortgage rates, but indirectly it does. Right now, there's a 98.1% chance they reduce it a quarter point, which is good, right? So that's something we'll see. There's a 1.9% chance they keep it as is. So that's great, great news here, which hopefully will get rates back down a little bit more overall. But right now, for a 30-year fix, 7.09%. Last week's show was 6.91. The week before that, 6.62. The week before that, 6.21. And the week before that, 6.11. We were scraping right there almost to the fives, and then all the way back up, within a month and a half, all the way back above 7. So 15-year fix, 6.48 right now. A 30-year jumbo loan, 7.16%. A 30-year FHA loan, 6.61%, and a 30-year VA loan, 6.62%. I guarantee you next week on next week's show, we'll see that a lot lower, which is good. And so if you're thinking about selling, I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot of buyers jump in who have pent-up buyer demand. We're going to see a very, very interesting fourth quarter because as rates come down, everyone's predicting they should. As they come down, you'll see a lot more buyers jump in. And so you want to think about maybe selling. I know a lot of people are hesitant during the holidays, but I'm telling you, I mentioned this before, we always talk about what's the most emotional purchase that anyone ever makes. The most emotional purchase anyone ever makes is their house. It's so emotional for them. It's where they raise their family. It's where they live, they grow, they create memories, all that stuff. And if you take on top of that, what's the most emotional time of the year? For most people, it's the holidays. And so I'll show a house to somebody in July, and guess what they're visualizing? What it looks like during Christmas, right? Where they're going to put the Christmas tree, where they're going to have their family over for dinner. And so that's something that makes it so much more effective to sell that because people can visualize and see in real time what's happening. So if you have any questions about that, reach out to me. More than happy to help you get an instant valuation on your property. Go to blakesloan.com. So a quick break, right back in a second.
You got 2.5.
Okay, so maybe just do one commercial maybe?
Just one.
Yeah.
You want Clay or Buck or Gary?
Clay and Buck.
WRNN listeners, Clay Travis here. As investors in real estate, Buck and I both know exactly what to look for to find the agent with the best tools and marketing to get the highest sales price possible for a home.
Totally true, Clay. And here in Myrtle Beach, that agent is our friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. If you need to sell a home and buy a new one, ask Blake about his guarantee.
Get this, Blake guarantees to sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, or he'll buy it himself. And since you know what your current home will sell by and for how much, you can buy your next home without worrying about getting stuck with two mortgages.
There's simply no other agent in the market who has a guarantee that will line up.
Well, that's about a minute.
Sloan can
Okay.
offer you. So when you're looking to sell and buy, he is your guy.
I'll fire that bid
750
like I normally do
five-star
about
reviews by Googling
20
Sloan
seconds
Realty
before.
Group.
Perfect.
Give Blake a call today and start packing that Sloan Realty Group.
And tune in to Blake's show Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Radio Show. The Hot Buyers Alert. My team and I are working a ridiculous amount of home buyers right now, looking at properties in the Grand Share, Myrtle Beach area, anywhere from really $250,000 to $4.4 million right now. But one thing we do is put our money where our mouth is. We spend $95,000 a month in marketing. We outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. But right now, active home buyers are looking to buy 78,218 active home buyers. Again, 78,218 active home buyers. Got some right now from Westminster, California. Frank Clyde from Redwood City, California. I got Doug from Wisconsin, Denver, Colorado, Long Branch, New Jersey. So if you're thinking about selling, reach out, call me. We need inventory. Our team is grinding, pushing hard in the fourth quarter. And so if you have any questions real estate related, always reach out to me. You can go to blakesloan.com, get an instant home valuation, instant cash offer, and keep track of all your assets on there. 843-808-SOLD or blakesloan.com. We'll see you back here next week.